Hello, everybody, and welcome to Choice, Change, and Action podcast. So you're with me, your host, Simone Milasas, and I am in the most stunning place in Mallorca. It's called, it's Port de Soller in Mallorca, and I have Joy Business Facilitator training happening here soon. And it's been a few weeks that I've been here. I'm definitely falling in love with Mallorca. It's incredible. And I am joined here today with Miss Kelly Pringle, who is in South Africa. And I think it's absolutely freezing where you are and super hot where I am. Is that correct?
It is. So I'm definitely like absorbing whatever it is that you have. I'm like, I'll have some of that. Yes.
I was on a meeting this morning with two people that we work with from South Africa. And I was like, Jesus Christ, you're all hooded up and you look freezing. I've got the
Yeah.
aircon cranked. It's like, yeah. It's always interesting to me how, like, when I travel to, and when you're in maybe cold and you're packing to go somewhere warm, and the headspace of going, really? Am I really not going to need like a billion sweaters and jackets, or flip it the other way around? Like,
When you're
it's always,
freezing and you're packing your like bikini and your shorts.
yeah. Yeah, you're like, no, not a possibility. It's like, yeah, you gotta get your head around that anyway. It's always interesting for me because it's what I continuously do. You'd think I'd be used to it, but I am not. So today we are talking about creationships, and creationships is a topic that we have been talking about for a little while under relationships done different. Relationships Done Different is one of the Access Consciousness specialty classes. There are, we call them, excuse me, RDD CFs, because we tend to shorten everything in Access. So I shorten everything in Australia too. So it's RDD facilitators, Relationship Done Different facilitators. They're all over the world. Lots of people have many classes up, etc. But one of the topics that we termed, it was quite a few years ago. I was sitting in Gary Douglas, the founder of Access, and Dr. Dane Heer's lounge room in Texas. And there was a few of us, and we were talking about relationships, etc. And I don't actually know if anyone really knows this story.
Mm.
And I don't even remember who it was, but someone went, you know what, relationships should be more like creationships. And we went, wow. And it just had such a lightness to it. And I'll tell you why, because the word relationship literally means the distance between two things. So if you look up the dictionary, it's like the distance between two things is the relationship between, X and Z, etc., or this person and this, or whatever it is. Whereas a creationship has such a different energy to it. And I would like to invite the world to find out what creationship is, to
Mm.
ask for creationships to show up, to have more of them in your life in every area, whether it's, with a partner, a lover, husband, wife, it's like your kids, your family, your colleagues, your friends. Oh, yeah. And yourself and your body. So Kelly had a whole bunch of questions for me, and I said, let's do a podcast. And so she can ask me the questions and we can talk about this. And I'm sure I'm probably going to end up doing a couple of podcasts on this. It's a
Mm.
really big topic and there is a lot to get into. I also will say myself, Gary, and Dane are doing a class in September live at El Lugar in Costa Rica, but you can also jump online as well. So we'll put that link in the show notes too. And there's one more thing coming up is Relationships Done Different. It's not out yet, but we're going to do, I think, some like yearly membership starting in November and look at this whole energy of relationship versus creationship. So I'm
Mm.
really excited about this topic. So Kelly, sort of over to you.
Yes, thank you. And I so love just how things in access consciousness, just the name is such an invitation already, and like such a different it gives you such a sense of like relationships done different. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean I can do a relationship different? And like, as you were speaking, in my world, I'm like, relationships seem like such a sacred area for people. Like, yes, I'll change my money stuff and I'll change my body stuff, but don't ask me to touch on my relationship because that's like sacred to me. So yeah, I was curious about.
I want to comment on that too, though,
Yeah.
because I think you're correct. And, Joy Business is another specialty class that Access has. And when that first came out, like, I don't know, I'm going to say a billion years ago, but it's a long time ago, probably 16, 17 years ago, maybe even longer. And nobody wanted to talk about it, but everybody would like a successful business and they would like all this stuff, and they're not looking at what they're avoiding. And now Joy Business has become so much bigger, and it's become something that a lot of people have embraced, like using the tools of Access Consciousness in business, which is really cool. And I noticed the same thing, like Relationships Done Different we've been doing these classes for a few years now, but it's got that same energy to it of like, don't touch this. Like, maybe an area that you're not fucking getting it correct, right? It's like you're having a bit of grief, you're not having much joy, but are you avoiding it and not wanting to have a look at what you could change in order to choose something different? Like, how many people don't want to choose because they've decided they're going to lose? Like,
Yeah.
choosing is not losing. And what if you lost everything of where you currently are now, like all your relationships, and there was something so much better and greater that showed up? But we always go to, oh my God, I'm going to be left with nothing. Well, what else is possible from that? So yeah, I totally agree. It's something that people are like, they don't want to talk about it. But what if it's okay? What if it's okay to talk about your relationships? What if it's okay to be vulnerable and have a look at what's up and what you could choose and you could change? So yeah.
Yeah, and I remember in a class that we did with Dr. Dane here, he said relationships are like a little space, a little break away from consciousness sometimes. Because I think that's exactly what people decide, is like that they're going to lose everything in a bad way. So, but I'm like kind of imagining people who aren't super familiar with this concept of what a creationship actually is. And as we were talking about relationships, it's so clear how that is the distance. Like, so if we're talking about something that isn't about creating the distance between two people, like what can you go a little bit more into what you see a creationship as being?
Yeah. And I started to look at this with some of the, I guess, like the tools of Access Consciousness that we talk about all the time, because I think can be quite basic, and yet it's so simple that people don't want to choose it, because most people look at a relationship to fulfill something that they think they're lacking.
Yeah.
And I mean, look at all the fairy tales and all that sort of stuff, or it's like, oh, my other half, my better half, or da da da,
The
all that sort of
one.
thing. Yeah, the one. And it's like, for me, a creationship is somewhere where you should be creating at least 20 times more because you are with this person than what you would alone. So it adds to your life. Now, how many of you are creating, and there's so much of this, right? Because we can go down like the friendship route, the colleague, family, and all of that. But most people, when we say relationships, they go to their partner, their lover, the person they'd like to have, or the person that they are with that they wish they weren't, or blah, blah, blah. Okay. So let's sort of, for the case of this, we address that part. Is how many people are choosing someone so that you can create what you think is a predictable life and is more result driven, rather than, what if you were with someone and it was total play, total receiving of all energies, total allowance of them, of you. There was no projections and expectations of this person. It was not about having to be right, but also not about being wrong. It's not about controlling. I know that's a big one. Like, it's a whole podcast in itself. It's not about controlling you or them or the relationship. You don't use the relationship to determine your future. The relationship, if it's a creationship, should be adding to your future. Because I see a lot of people tend to cut themselves off when they're in a relationship. And I'll give you an example. It's like my last, long-term relationship that I broke up. I don't know, again, sounds like a billion years ago, but I think it's at least 10 or 12 years ago. When I first hooked up with him, it was like a year into the relationship. We were living together and he loved surfing, and he came back from surfing one day. You've been surfing for like 3 hours, walked in the house and I was like, hey, how was it? And he looked at me with this look on his face like, shit, I'm about to get in trouble. And
Yeah.
I went, what's up? And he went, are you angry at me? Are you cranky? And I was like, no. I said, why would I be angry at you? And he went, because I've been surfing for 3 hours. And I went, but you love surfing. And he went,
Mm,
yeah, I know, but I've been gone for so long. And I went, but you love it. And I said, you love it. Every molecule in your body I can perceive is just like clanging together and so happy. You're
mm,
happy. And I said, by the way, I like 3 hours of space on my own too. And so we had this conversation. What we got to was I said, hey, I'm not your ex. So his
mm,
previous relationship, she would have just yelled at him and she
mm,
would have given him like the silent treatment, or she would have made him feel so bad because she wasn't included. That's something that he was choosing. For me, I was like, dude, you come back and you're so happy. When we now spend time together, it's
mm.
more, it's not less. And I think that's a really common occurrence. That story I've told so many times, but I've also had other people tell stories. Like there's one which is really funny. Gary Douglas, he's been married twice, and one of his ex-wives, he loves horse riding, right? Used to go horse riding all the time. And so she was annoyed that he would go horse riding and was like, you need to take me. So he was like, okay. So he took her horse riding, and then she didn't want a horse ride. She just wanted to like walk along like next to the horse and hold the reins, etc. And he was like, oh my God. Like, why would you not just let your partner go horse riding if they wanted to go horse riding? Like, and so for me, again, that whole relationship aspect is you are looking at a relationship to fulfill something that you think you lack. But what if you never lacked anything? So if you're
Mm.
looking for that to like, they must be by my side all the time, or they can't do anything without me. It's like, really? Is that really working for you? Like, wow. Like that's not the life I would like to lead. I would like to be so happy and content and be needless of anyone so that you
Mm.
can choose someone and enjoy them.
And it almost like, as you were saying all those different stories, it's like so many people do it where it becomes like the lowest common denominator of both people. And that's in some way like you're showing me that how dedicated you are to me by making yourself so
Yes.
small.
Yes.
But
Well,
it,
let's look at love. Like love is part of relationship. Right? Oh, are you in love? Oh, they're so in love. You could use all that terminology. But the acronym for love, what we discovered years ago, is LOVE, lower oscillating vibrational equivalent. So you're going along in life, and I'm sure anyone listening to this podcast, you're going to know of someone who's done this, or you go, shit, yeah, that sounds
yeah.
like me. And it may sound like you in my 20s and 30s, I literally, Kelly, I would
Mm,
choose someone to be with, like to have sex with, hang out with. But the first thing I would do is look at my friends, especially in my 20s, and go, do they like him?
mm,
I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what is that? Like, I'm not even in the equation, right? So I wouldn't want
mm.
to be choosing from that for anything. But how many of you are choosing like not what not what would actually bring you up, not what would add to your life, and add. So you see someone and you go, wow, they're awesome, or I love having sex with them, or it's lust, or they've got a lot of money, or or they're cute, all these things that you use as a reason and justification for that I'm in love, lower oscillating vibrational equivalence, and then it's forced for one person must choose less in order to, as you said, be the lowest common denominator, like function from that. It's like, is that actually working for you?
But it's so comfortable. Like even as you were speaking, like it's the way more, well, comfortable in one way and also really not comfortable in another way. But it's like really a courageous choice to not get pissed off when your boyfriend goes off for 5 hours working on his car or something.
But what if it's not? What if you flipped it? Because
Mm,
what you're talking about right now is the way most people think, and
mm,
that's the way they think it should be. Now
yeah.
flip it. What if it was like more comfortable to let your partner go off and go surfing, and let your partner go
Mm,
off and go do something? What if that was the comfort? Like, what if we've misidentified and misapplied what it is? What if we've misidentified and misapplied and thought control is what is comfort? And like as we were talking about, like that being result driven and being the lowest common denominator. What if we've misidentified and misapplied that?
Mm.
And what if we flip it and instead the comfort is in the space and in the freedom and in that ease and that joy of having somebody totally choose what they desire to choose and you choose what you desire to choose? I mean, look at jealousy. Like, how the hell did jealousy come about? It's like, that's totally insane. Anyone to be jealous of somebody else is a level of insanity that
Yeah.
most people choose at some point, and it never creates anything greater, ever.
Mm. That's such a beautiful change in perspective. And it, like, literally my whole body just got relaxed when I was like, yes.
Yes, because it's the
Yeah,
truth. Let's look at that, okay? So as I'm talking about
yeah,
this, Kelly's whole body gets relaxed. Did your body, listening to this, get relaxed? When you
yeah.
have that, like, sense of relaxation in your body, because guess what? You're in a creationship with your body as well. When you
Mm,
have that sense of relaxation in your body, is that the truth? Are you now hearing the truth? And you've been like,
mm,
when you clench something, like you clench your body or you hold on to something so tight. But how many people have been holding on to a point of view so tight that's not even your point of view? Maybe, it's your parents or your grandparents or culture or religion or something like that that tells you what it should be, like the one, get married, have kids, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, etc. That whole story is actually changing now. I think there's a lot of different things that are available. It's not like, for example, a woman doesn't actually have to have a man to survive. And you know what? Years ago, we did. There was no payments. There was no, you couldn't go, get out there in the workforce. You couldn't own a house. You couldn't do all these things. But now it's totally different, and there is a different way to be, which I think is beautiful because now we can have more that a relationship or a creationship is a choice, not a necessity.
mm,
That's
mm.
one thing I'd really like everyone to get.
So so obviously, like, we're talking about this amazing, beautiful space of allowance and allowing your partner to go and have like what really is joyful for them and works for them. And I think I read in your book that you and Brendan wrote that there were some times when your partner was like really depressed and lying on the couch for days and um maybe not in the best version of himself. And I've never forgotten. I was like, wow, that takes to me like quite a level of allowance and space to allow someone to do that. And so I wonder if you could talk like more about that.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I chuckle about that now, but so here's the way the story went, and the way I recall it too is, look, he was an alcoholic, but we didn't know, like, we didn't acknowledge it at the time, neither of us did. So, in truth, he had a lot of stuff going on, and, he was lying on the couch nearly all day, and, he'd start drinking beers in the morning and stuff, and maybe go for a surf and come back, but then he would just be moping around. I'm a really creative person, especially in the morning, and so I'd wake up and I'd like, and I'd bounce out of bed before him and be like, right, and start creating and just looking at my day. Like, I'm not someone who needs motivation to create. Hence, I wrote the book Joy of Business. I love it, right? I love working. And I think work is very different, and that's a whole other topic. So I would just keep being that. But I would check in with him and be like, hey, you know, how you doing? Is there anything I can get for you? Whatever. But I wasn't judging that he was choosing that.
Mm,
Um, but I also wasn't willing to be totally aware of what was going on in his world, but he wasn't either, right?
mm,
This is years, like, so, I mean, he's not an alcoholic now. I think he's been sober for like 4 or 5 years or something, and I'm so proud of him. And there were
mm,
so many things that showed up, and, he went to AA, and so we had to have those discussions of what went on, and it was really interesting to see what he chose and why he chose it, and that fact that neither of us were willing to have a look at it at the time,
mm,
and the things he would do to hide from me. So I never looked at him as I need him. I was
Mm,
grateful for him, and one of the tools, that I would suggest in any relationship is this working for me, okay? So,
mm,
we sort of had a deal, and it was a bit of an you know, unwritten, not necessarily unspoken deal that he looked after so much of our house. Like, he, we did major renovations, and he did all of that. He would cook every day, amazing cook,
mm,
almost gone into MasterChef, sort of like that type of cook. So he would take care of all of that, and I would work, and so I was definitely the one earning the most money. So for me, I looked at it and went, "Okay, this is my job. I'm earning money. It's great, and I'm happy to support him." And I was, and he had a kid and a dog, etcetera, so we had this whole family. So I was being like, I guess traditionally, I would be like what you would say is the man, like the
mm,
breadwinner, which I also think, and please, ladies out there, if you are earning good money, do not make your partner wrong for earning less money than you. I that's one thing I find a little hard to have allowance on, because don't stop what you can create either. If you are capable of earning more money and being successful and creating more revenue streams and everything, which I love that, so I'm good at it.
mm,
And, I've got a whole story, I've got out of debt, etcetera, did all of that. So, but I like it, I enjoy it. So, but I also didn't enjoy cooking, so he would do all of this. So, what if there was no role that you had to have in a relationship? And for me, that was a creationship, that we were sort of being there for each other in that way. And I would ask all the time, "Does this work for me?" And I would
mm.
get yes. So I was like, "Okay, so keep going." But one day, and this is what we wrote in our book, and the book is called Relationships, Are You Sure You Want One? Which I love the name of it. And I walked past him and he said, "Will you stop being so happy?" And I went, "What?" And I can remember him lying on the couch, and I stopped and I went, "What?" And he went, "Will you stop being so happy?" And I went, "What are you talking about?" And he went, "Do you know how hard it is to be depressed and lying on the couch when you're living with someone who's so happy?" And I looked at him, I went, "Are you serious?" I went, "You wanna have a listen to what you're saying right now?" And I started laughing, and then because I started laughing too, I wasn't making it real, like going, "Oh, no, now I have to make myself less than." Like, I was like, "No." I was like, Hey, dude, you can choose what you're choosing, but I'm not gonna stop being happy or creating because you're choosing this." And
Uh,
so what we both noticed is it started to shift where he was at. Because
mm,
if I started moping around and being all like buying the lie that
yeah,
or that he was trying to whatever he was trying to do and be, etcetera, if I started buying that lie, then what would I do? Oh, yeah, I'd have to do that, like, lower oscillating vibrational equivalence, that, like, lowest common denominator thing. Whereas I was
yes.
like, "No," it's like, "You get to choose you and I get to choose me. You can choose something different, you know?" So
Uh,
it did start to shift something for him, but I love that story because I remember just going, "What? How can you ask someone to stop being so happy?"
yeah. I also love that story because I think so many, I'm not sure if it's just a woman thing. It's probably not just a woman thing, but there's so many like spoken and unspoken ways that we try and like maneuver and manipulate our partner into doing something or doing something different or being something different instead of, like you said, just freaking going and being so joyful that he couldn't help but.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, look, okay,
Oh,
so what if we flipped that too, is
mm,
the women manipulating, like, guys, can I just say, men don't get it. Like, they don't do subtext, right? And women continuously do subtext, and it can be like the whole typical, like, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, fine."
I'm
Like, the
fine.
amount of times I see do that, "Fine. Yeah, I'm fine." And the man goes, "Oh, she's fine." And the woman's
Yes.
going, "Don't you get it? You need to, like, know exactly what's going on. You need to read my mind. You need to change this." If you want something to change, you need to ask for it. You need to actually ask for what it is you would like to change. And first thing you should do is ask, is this person capable of delivering what it is I would like? Now, this could be
Mm.
so simple, from something like, I don't know, like
Please
I
buy me
like a really
flowers.
what's that?
I said, please, I love flowers. Please buy me some.
Yeah, but yeah, okay, "I love flowers, please buy me some." But there's some men who would go out and buy flowers all the time, and there's a lot of men who wouldn't. And
Mm.
are you asking of something, so that, and what does that mean? if they go and buy you flowers. Like, if
Mm.
they're going to buy you flowers because you've told them you like flowers and please go buy them, just fucking go buy flowers yourself. If you like flowers, go buy flowers, you know? Like, I've actually never had a partner who's been one of those men who's just bought me flowers all the time. I will say, Brendan, my ex, he used to buy me flowers in the most random of moments, and,
Mm.
I remember one day we were in Italy, and he used to smoke cigarettes, and he was leaning out of the balcony having a cigarette, and all of a sudden, he's come back in and he's gone, "I'll be back in a minute." I was like, "Okay." And he ran downstairs and he came up and he had, I don't know if you've ever been to Rome, and they have like those guys who walk around the street selling roses for ridiculous amounts, like, you know, €5 for a rose or something like this. And he's seen this guy down the bottom and he's yelled out at him and gone down and he brought all the roses that the guy had. I don't know how much the hell it cost, but he came back up and he was like, and he had all these roses and it was hilarious and beautiful and spontaneous. For me,
Mm.
that's way better than, you know, someone bringing me flowers every week, but it's not way better. It's actually just a choice. But what if you never, and that goes back to one of the points I was saying about a creationship is no expectations and no projections. Like, and the thing is, relationship is not your job, it's not work, but it actually is. If you
Mm.
want a creationship, you've got to work on not having a judgment of you, of them, of the actual relationship, of being in total allowance, of an allowance isn't a doormat. It doesn't mean that they get to walk all over you. But, you know, like, I mean, okay, so what the thing I was going to say is like a kitchen. I like a clean kitchen. I'm not dirty, but I might be messy in other areas. Like my bathroom might get messy, like there's shit everywhere, you know, products everywhere and stuff. But a kitchen for me, I really like it. But I like it clean. So I clean it. So if I expect somebody else to have the same point of view as me, then all I'm doing is expecting them to be the same as me. That's not what
Mm.
you ask for in a creationship. That's what you would expect in a relationship. Like
Mm.
laundry. I love doing laundry.
Weirdo.
I will I don't like ironing and I don't like, folding, but I like doing laundry. I like everything to be clean, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll do the laundry. Yep. In actuality, I'm pretty fussy about it, of how you do your laundry, right? But I don't expect somebody else to do it the way I would do it. So if I like it like that, then do it, you know? And these are
Mm.
very basic examples. But what are you expecting of your partner or expecting of someone that is only creating a relationship that keeps you from generating a creationship, which is something so different?
And like you say, so much of that, like even with the flowers example, the projections and expectations, and so much stuff is like, if they do this, then that means something.
Yeah.
Like that means that they love me. That means that I'm important to them. And the distinction between relationship and creationship is like becoming so clear in
Mhm.
this. And I
It's
think the
good.
need, yeah, the need part of it is such a big differentiator of like the two, you know. And you said about your ex-partner, I didn't need him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in truth, none of us need anything, but we
Mm.
we make we make ourselves think we need something.
Yeah.
But if you were being needless, it's like, what would you choose? And even if you're, you know, listening to this podcast, and if you look at, as we're talking about this, if you are in a relationship or if you would like one, etc., it's got the same energy. It's like, ask. It's like, what do you think you need from this person
Mm.
that if you didn't need it would allow a different possibility to show up?
Mm.
Like, what could you receive beyond need? Because if you look at need, like it's got all these spiky things to it. Like if you look at, say, a porcupine and it's got all these different spikes on it, and that porcupine, every single spike is a need. So then now you sit next to a porcupine, like someone with all these spikes in them, and it's like,
Mm.
wow, it's, you know, you're like, oof, ow, 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 ow. And it's like
Mm.
it's continuously getting spiked by all these needs.
Yeah.
Now, if you sat next to a porcupine and they had no needs, then would all the spikes go away? Is that easier to receive from that person and from that being with no needs? Is there more possibilities available beyond like the structure of a relationship? That structure of relationship is absolute bullshit. And for me, it's time for us to all acknowledge that we don't need to choose that. We
Mm.
can choose something different, and we can enjoy someone just because we
Mm.
enjoy them, because it's like, I get to see this person, I get to play with this person, I get to be with them, I get to have sex with them, I get to go and have dinner with them, I get to, I don't know, celebrate with them, whatever it is you guys you like to choose. It's like, choose it because you enjoy it, not because it's a necessity.
Mm. And if we didn't spend so much time trying to get like our needs fulfilled, I wonder how much more fun and joy and and exuberance and play we could have,
Well, and
Um,
are they your needs? Like, I know for myself, growing up, my mother, I was at a party once and I just got back from overseas. It was like a big family, relatives, neighbors, all that sort of stuff. And I overheard my mother saying, "Oh, she'll be happy when she finds the one." And I
mm,
went, "What?" And I just spent 3 years overseas traveling, having the best time of my life and, all this. And I was like, "Jesus." And I realized her point of view was happiness is when you find the one. You can't be
mm,
happy if you're not in a relationship. And I was like, God damn. And I've never, ever desired to get married or have kids. Like, when people go, "Oh, do you regret not having kids?" And I'm like,
mm.
well, do you regret having kids? That should be a choice too. And I've just never desired it. I mean,
Mm,
we're talking about Brandon, my last long-term relationship. And when a couple of years in, I remember he said to me, he goes, "Hey, if you want to get married, we can." And I went, "Is that a proposal?" And he went, "I guess so." And I went, "I'm good." I was like, "I'm good." Like, but I never actually desired it. Like, I really never, never, even as a young girl going, "Oh, white dress, da da da," never,
mm,
and never desired to have kids. I ended up with a step kid for 8 years, which was fine. I learned a lot, and have no regrets of that. And yet, it was not something I deemed necessary, and definitely not necessary for my happiness.
mm.
So it's like, how many people are looking for happy in a relationship, and is like, is that actually showing up for you, or would you prefer to be having a creationship? And maybe, just maybe, and there's a whole lot of joy in that.
Yeah. Exactly that. I mean, I know for me, it's not very, I'm nearly in my 40s, never been married, never had kids. And even being in with family and you almost can sense all the
Oh,
not
poor Kelly.
disappointment, but trying to
Yeah, poor
and
Kelly.
okay, Kelly she'll find that person one day, and I'm like just here doing my thing. Um,
But
yeah,
please,
so I was,
and thank you, Kelly. Just thank you for bringing that up too. And I brought up, guys. If you're listening to this, you are not fucked up, and you are not wrong if you're not in a relationship and you don't desire to get married and have kids. It's your
mm,
choice, and it's like, again, part of the creationship part is no projections and expectations or judgments, right? So
mm,
most people will project at you energetically.
yeah.
It's not verbal, it's energetic. So let's do this. This is one of the access consciousness clearings, is all the energetic projections towards you about what you should be doing and choosing in relationships, and everywhere that you've picked up on that and made that the priority rather than you a priority, where you destroy
Mm,
and uncreate it times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all 100 shorts, boys, proverbids, creations, bases, and beyonds. You are an infinite being. You are free to choose whatever the hell it is you want to choose.
mm.
Please get that, everyone. And if you want to know more about the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, you can go to theclearingstatement.com.
Cool, thank you. Um, I wanted to also touch on and I know each of these could probably be their own podcast, and we've spoken quite a lot about romantic partner kind of relationships. And you did mention at the beginning this creationship thing can apply to so many different things. I mean, yourself, your friendships, and the other really beautiful area it can apply is with your body. And I wonder, like, I know you've had this amazing journey with your body, sometimes a little painful, sometimes amazing. Like, I'm wondering if you, like, what has your body shown you about creationship?
Oh, so much, so much, so much, so much. And yeah, gosh. Yes, definitely, like, even start with asking for a creationship with your body rather than controlling it. So most people, and including myself, I found have chosen with their body through conflict and through
Mm,
control. Now, there's quick story and then lead to here is many years ago, I have discs that at the moment that play up in the last few years, like bulging discs. And I ended up in hospital in Australia, and which is how I found out about it because they did a whole X-ray and everything. And everyone who was there was like, "Oh my god, this was terrible." And I went, "But was it?" Like, I gained a lot of awareness, and for 3 days I was in bed on this, medication, and like in and out of bed, but just it was, tough. And I was meant to go to Italy, and I was like, "I wanna go to Italy." And this is how it works. Like, so I want you to start listening to how you speak and how you think, okay? Because I was
mm,
like, "I wanna go to Italy." And I could hear my body going, "Are you kidding me? We're not getting on a plane. We're not doing this." And I'm like, "But I wanna go."
mm,
And I said to Gary Douglas, I went, "How do you choose in communion?" Because I was literally fighting my body. I
mm,
I was like, hands on hips, stomping foot, "I wanna go to Italy." And my body's like, "No." Like, and I got this energy because I indulged in it if I went, and I got this energy of being on the plane in a lot of pain, getting to, the class I wanted to go to in Italy, being in pain and spending most of the time either, on a massage table or, in my room, like not actually having much joy with it. And I could perceive that. My body was showing me. And I was like, I want to go to Italy. So I kept asking, what would it be like to choose with my body and be in
mm,
total communion with my body, like creationship, what we're talking about? And not controlling it, not fighting it, not from conflict. And it was like 3 days, after 3 days, I kept asking questions about this, et cetera, and I woke up, and there was this sense of calm and a sense of peace, and I went, "Oh, I'm not going to Italy."
mm,
And it was just this choice that didn't have, we talk about FOMO, fear of missing out. I like to say JOMO, the joy of missing out, but that wasn't there. It was just like, this is a choice that I am choosing with my body, and I
mm,
gained so much awareness from that. And then I started to ask my body, "Okay, what would I like to create with my body?" And, gosh, there's been so many different things. Like, for years, it was like judging the shape and size of my body. So, how wrong I am for the weight I am, like I said, size and shape. Always loved my height, I will say. I'm 5'9", always loved my height. I like being tall. And like, just judge, 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 judge. And finally, when I and it took like, it's like really flipping the switch. And so it takes a bit of effort. You've got to be on it. You've got to be present. And when I started asking questions about being in creationship with my body and not judging it, I noticed that my body started to change, and I lost a bunch of weight, and things started to change. And then I had a conversation with my Pilates instructor. She randomly said to me, it's about 4 or 5 years ago, "What are you asking for?" I went, "Good question." Because I always went to, "Oh, lose weight." I had these like typical answers that I often
mm,
wonder, were they even mine? Like, how much, look at the industry around the world, the diet industry and all of that is just throwing
yeah,
things at you all the time. And like I was talking about before, the projections, like not verbal, energetic projections of others, etc. And when she asked me the question, and she's a really cool lady, and she's just so present and in allowance. And I really looked at the question. I went, "Okay, good question." And I did this thing of like sitting up from a chair, and I made a noise, and I call it old people's noise. Like, I was like, "Oh," and I was like, "Okay, that's not working." So I went, "Okay, I really like strength, strength and mobility and that agility to be able to lift myself off something, or, like I like going out to sea on a boat, lift myself onto a boat, not have to,
mm,
So that's what I started going, okay, so what would I need to choose today in order to have that be for my today and my future?
Mm,
So yes, that's being in question and talking with my body. And I will say, then what I would do is have this communion and then I slip back into control. And it's more like if you look at it's more like the I'm going to say the Gestapo energy, but more like me telling my body, okay, so this is what we have to do now in order to have this, rather than always being in question and asking daily. So, um, I got to Mallorca and um, we had I had 2 weeks here of just basically play. So we went horse riding, we went out on boats, we went swimming, we went paddle boarding, we went hiking. And when you hike in Mallorca, some of the hikes are like so friggin' steep.
mm,
I was like, Jesus. And just did a lot of things, right? And I love moving my body and I love all of that, but I wasn't totally in question. And then
mm,
I got out of the shower about 5 days ago and was putting shorts on and my back tweaked again. And I recognized the energy of it. And I carry these anti-inflammatories just in case and, hardly ever take them, but I did because you have a bit of like, oof, I don't want to end up in hospital again. And so
yeah,
I also know now to take it easy when something like this shows up. But there's been so much awareness in the last 5 days. And I had to cancel this other boat ride that we had. And, my friend was saying to me, he said, Simone, every time I ask, my body relaxes if we're not going on it. I love going out on boats with you, but this is relaxation. I went, I know, I get it. And I so wanted to fight it, Kelly.
mm,
And I went, no, I need to cancel this. The second I canceled the boat, my body relaxed. And like you were mentioning before, there was a lightness in that choice. You start to relax.
mm,
And I realized that I will be in communion with my body to an extent. And then one of the things I notice I will do is I'll lock something in and then not ask another question. So even if you go, I don't know, it could be food, something like that. Like, I love this or I like this, or you have an awareness that your body wants to move in a certain way. So you have the awareness, right? Correct. Okay. Tick. But the second you lock that awareness in and go, no, this is and you create it as an answer or a result or a conclusion, basically a conclusion. This is what my
yes,
body likes. This is what my body doesn't like. You basically just put your feet into cement block and you lock it in rather than asking daily, and in truth, asking every 10 seconds what your body would like or what your body desires. So I don't see a hell of a lot of people that are actually in communion with their bodies and creationship. What would it take to have that? I mean, even if you look at a lot of really athletic people, and I had a conversation with someone because they were saying how they'll push themselves, like, and they'll wanna keep going further and further and further, and it's like, okay, but there's that fine line of a difference. Are you pushing your body from conflict and fight, or are you pushing your body is it asking for that and generating something different, you know? Like, I have a PT at home, and I love he's so good because he knows me and knows my body, but he never pushes me to an extent that it's too much. He'll push me to the extent that he knows I'm capable of, even when I don't think I'm capable. And
mm,
that for me is that communion that you want to be, because it's not about like going, oh no, now I don't go running. Now I stop when I'm out of breath or something. No, it's not saying that. It's like, but what if you were in total question with your body all the time? What else is possible? What could your body show you that you haven't allowed your body to show you? And
mm.
everything at that is times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all 100 shorts, boys, perverts, creations, bases, and beyonds.
Yeah, and so that when you brought up the word conclusion, that kind of like for me really some like whenever you go into a conclusion and you're not willing to ask a question in
Mm,
any area, you can't really have creationship and conclusion together.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even if you go like this was many years ago. I was at a restaurant and I was ordering something and ask your body what it wants on the menu. Like next time you go to a restaurant, look at the menu instead of going, "Oh, what would I like?"
Mm.
Body, what would you like? And ask your body. And something so random might show up and you're like, "Really?" But I remember like say it was steak with béarnaise sauce. And I remember going, "Oh, I really like béarnaise sauce."
Mm.
And my friend who was with me at the time said, "Does your body?" And I was like, "Oh." No. And it was so clear. I like the taste of béarnaise sauce. My body actually doesn't like it. And I've noticed that in the past probably few years now. There's a lot of things that I would say I liked,
Mm,
but my body doesn't sit that well with my body. Like either I get bloated or, something it rejects it a little bit.
mm,
Like typical thing, gluten is really interesting. In Australia, I can't eat the bread in Australia that well. In Europe, I can. So I'm like, okay, I asked my body. It's like, is the bread okay here? Are you okay with this? And I've noticed in about the past 6-10 months, I have not been bloated at all by listening to what my body is actually showing me.
mm. And that question of like, is this working? Like, does this work for me? Even if you think you you think you like it or you think you enjoy it, like that question is such a generative question with anything.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, we're not taught to ask questions either. We're taught to have an answer. So
Mm,
again, we're flipping the script here. What if you never
yes.
had an answer and you always had a question, is what we're looking at. Hmm. So, hey, I get we might need to do a bit of a part 2 on creationship with this, Kelly. I think we haven't
I
even
feel like I
started.
had this whole bunch of beautiful questions, and I don't think I asked any of them. So yes, I definitely, yeah. It's just, I mean, there's always new stuff that comes up when we get together to talk as well. So
Yeah. So
yeah.
let us know if you enjoyed this and you would like to have more information about creationships as well. And
Mm.
if so, we will do a part 2. But we're pretty much at the top of the podcast now. And so I want to say thank you so much, Kelly. And is there anything that you want to, leave the listeners with here?
I I would just say that there's so many beautiful resources in Access Consciousness. There's a brand new, like Simone's relationship. Are you sure you want one? I bought that years ago and I've like reread it multiple times. There's also a brand new book about intimacy that Gary and Dane just wrote that I've also just read. It's short and sweet and it's so practical. So if you want to dive in even more, there's a bunch of stuff that's available. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, there is. There is so much. And we'll put it in the notes below. And just remember that when you don't have a need in your world of and for relationships, then you can start to receive a different possibility. And that's what creationships is about. So
Yes.
thank you for being here. Thank you, Kelly, for igniting this.
Yeah.
And if you like this, please subscribe. Tell everyone about it. And if you're not yet, can you follow us on YouTube? Because we've got lots of fun stuff coming out on YouTube too. And you can always watch the podcast or listen to the podcast on YouTube as well as wherever you are listening to it now. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you next time. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.